So traditional craft that is practiced by the Toda community is the embroidery that you're seeing here, and it is largely in red and black patterns and geometrical designs. Is there a reason for it? Tamina is also joining us to tell us a little more about it. It looks so stunning and it has been woven so well. But there is a certain pattern that I'm noticing. The colors red and black are very prominent. There are mostly lines and squares. Is there a reason why that has been done? And what is the day like in the life of the one day in the life of a Toda woman?
See, if you see their patterns and this one, right? Like for traditionally, it's been woven by hand, and if you see, it's counted and they're done. And in a typical day, they used to, after cooking and all that, and the Nilgiri slopes are very beautiful. They used to sit like this in the sunlight, and they used to just, sing songs along it, and they used to, uh, you know, do it with very passionable. And when you see when you see here all these patterns, right, when you say geometrical, this actually shows the Nilgiri slopes. It's a very traditional and the oldest pattern in their embroidery, and it has a very in-depth and a cultural significance to them. It's used with this pattern is used, for their ritual ceremonies and all, when they wear this putkuli, you see. And this is their shawl. So this is their shawl and this is their putkuli, and you have many different things over here. And it's not just about the geometrical patterns, but their motives, what they call as puhur, is inspired by nature. And I'll give you an example. The squirrel, tree striped squirrel, uh, they are also inspired by it. So you can see the patterns nearly with the three pattern, three lines. So it's very inspiring.
Okay. And since we are covering elections, I want to ask you, he spoke about the GI tag for the shawls. Is there enough support that the Toda women and the community is getting from the government for these shawls? Are they being sold? What is the kind of help that comes in from the government?
So right now, the Toda community has a few self-help groups through which they sell. Even in botanical garden here, it was the first shop that was set up by the women itself. Like it was helped by Toda Nalvalvu Sangam, Toda Welfare Association, and it gives them economical independence. It gives them self empowerment, and empowers them. Actual women empowerment, you can see that. And yes, government is trying a lot, and we are getting support from administrative here in Nilgiris to help this community, uplift them through their cultural right. We call this a cultural right. And yeah, even if we have any infringements or anything, the administrative help and the government help helps the community to come forth from it.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for telling us all that. We also have Sitarans who continues to stay with us, and we're learning so much about the community. There's so much interest about it, but they're also so unique in so many of their cultures. But as we speak of the elections, what is their role in the elections? Are they part of the elections? Do they have their voter IDs?
Very much.
Hmm.
The Todas are very much fervent voters,
Hmm.
and come every election day.
Hmm.
The next day, you'll find all the newspapers,
Hmm.
covered with the tribals, especially the Todas in their colorful attire, voting. So on the voting day,
Hmm.
take it from me that you will find that the press people are all there to cover the Todas voting because they're so colorful,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
thing. And to show that the indigenous people who've been here for thousands of years, because now it's been proved that the Todas are here about almost 4,000 years ago, that they are very active participants in our electoral democracy, and also very proud citizens of this country. So I remember many years back, 20, 25 years back, there were as many as about 5 or 6 Toda hamlets which did not even have electricity. And I remember walking in one of those remote places. It was lovely there, with nature without any electricity. And this boy came up to me, the young person, and he said, you've helped us. You've got government schemes. You've helped us so much. Why don't you get us village electrified? So I said, why do you want electricity? It's so beautiful here in the setting. It was a very remote place. So he said, there's a cricket match where India is playing. and I want to watch that. So then I realized that they're very much part of the Indian democracy, and they need it. So I made sure that when we had these villages electrified within a year or two after that through government schemes, it was put in action, and I knew that they're proud Indians and they want to watch and cheer the Indian team.
That is so fantastic.
Yeah, so and all those villages were electrified. Now people don't realize that just 20 odd years back there were Toda villages that were not electrified. It sounds difficult to believe, but there are problems because there are remote places where there's a lot of forest cover, and to bring electricity to those places is very difficult without cutting trees, doing that. So the district collector at that time took a lot of initiative to get those electrified, even at a lot of expense, because without cutting trees or anything, so it means bringing it from a different valley and things like that. So
okay, they have been integrated to that entire process, and their voices are also heard, and that's great to hear in a democracy. But it's not just the Toda community. Can you also tell us a little bit about the other tribal communities here? Because again, like we were speaking, it's not like they are a united bloc when it comes to voting. Is it that the community members decide for their own which party would be best suited for them, or how does the voting process work for not just the Toda community? Tell us a little bit about the other tribal communities in the region.
see, basically, the Nilgiris, now for thousands of years, it's been an indigenous landscape. And the indigenous people lived according to their different to different elevations. So the Todas lived at the highest elevations. Along with them lived the Kotas. So you have a township called Kotagiri. So it's named after them. And on the slopes, you had the Kurumbas. At the foothills, you had the Irulas. You still have them. And then you have other groups like the Katanayakans and the Panyas and all living beyond that area. And so, all these people had a very interesting and mutually, symbiotic economic relationship. So money was hardly playing a role there. You only exchanged stuff. So if the Todas gave ghee, somebody else gave them grains because they were the pastoral people, right? So they didn't grow stuff, but they gave ghee, and they got their millets and other stuff like that. Or they made their walking sticks, the Todas, and they gave it to the other tribes like that. So they got things in exchange, and everything was very harmonious. I think till about 60, 70 years ago, most tribals, including the Todas, never even knew how to lock their houses. They won't even lock their houses. So it was like that. Now things have changed, and people have come into the normal money system. But earlier nobody used to lock their houses. Even now the temple is never locked, but their houses are locked. But it wasn't so far back when there was nothing like that. And in these societies, it's wonderful because you see a child loses the parents. There's nothing like orphans. There's nothing like a jail. Their own system of legislation where they sit in their panchayats and settle disputes works very well.
Okay.
And coming to your other question is, you see in the Nilgiris, we have different panchayats. And for example, the Sholur panchayat is reserved for the scheduled tribe people. So that means a panchayat chief, the president of the Sholur panchayat has to be tribal.
Okay.
So that gets them into the electoral process. And then when you stand for the panchayat elections, you're usually allied to some party. So these are how these party affiliations come in, but they're not mandated by the community. They're not mandated by the clan also. The Todas have 15 clans, but it's not mandated by that.
Okay.
It's your own will, like that, how you move it.
Okay.
That's open to them.
Okay, it's their free will.
Exactly.
I also want to ask you on what the key issues are for them. Does it get voiced in the election process, and even otherwise, what are the key issues for them that matter in the elections? Is it jobs, or is it protection of their rights? Is it land ownership, the forest bill? What are the key issues for the community?
See, at the moment, I would say the Forest Rights Act is now being implemented in Tamil Nadu. And we have a very good administration who is very eager to give all the tribal communities of the Nilgiris their rights under the Forest Right Act. And progress has been made. We've all been sitting with them and getting all their rights documented, and their cultural rights and other rights, etc. I put many of them into my book, so they're extracting data from that also. And so I think if they're given their their rights under the Forest Rights Act at the earliest, community rights and other rights, cultural rights, which is under process, that would be a great achievement. And it's also important that, the Todas now and all other tribals also, there's a lot of conflict which is happening with the, the wildlife. So there's a lot of wild life conflict with the human beings. And the people who are the brunt of it are the people who live in the forest. So there are people who are getting attacked by tigers, elephants, gore, bear, like that. So all these things have to be looked into. It's not just a compensation that should be given to the community when somebody dies or gets injured. It has to be, we have to work out ways of alleviating this, mitigating that these things should not happen. You see, when these people lose their buffaloes, the buffalo is a sacred thing around the temple. Now, when they lose their buffaloes, they never retaliate. The Todas have never retaliated against any animal, right? Because they're pacifists, they're vegetarian. But and when you ask them, they say, "Oh, it's a blessing." But how long can a community of modern generations carry on without retaliation or that thought? So we have to be proactive and design some strategies so that that stage never comes.
So lastly, if you had an appeal from their side for the government, for the ruling party here, what would it be? What are the changes that are needed in this election in the coming 5 years for the government that will come in? What are the changes that you think are needed for the community?
See, it's very important. One, of course, they need cultural. The culture has to be maintained. And like I mentioned, the government of Tamil Nadu has many schemes now where they are looking to actually conserve this culture. So it's very important and it's recognized. And I would also say that now the Toda, the traditional community of the Orthodox Todas, are now studying not only into schools but also at university level. So we have the first batch of girls who have become nurses and working. Some of them the odd lawyer, the odd engineers. So we have the first community generation who are actually, who have gone to university and are studying there. So I remember that 10, 15 years back, they would come to our Sangam and ask for help for their culture or for medical thing. But now almost every week, somebody says, can you help my child or my grandchild with the studies? So we're helping so many of these children. So it's also important that these children who are coming and studying, they should also be placed, they should find some employment. It's very important. And also understand the ways of serving the community and the general population of the Nilgiri, so that they don't, go too far away also. It's important that they come back and serve the community with pride and in their culture, their language and everything. I think that's the important thing.
All right.
Because we don't want the Todas to be just one more monoculture, right? They have to be, their own identity has to be preserved.
Yes, absolutely. To ensure that their identity stays, their culture stays, that's going to be most important. And even if they are not numerically significant, their voices are very important. The indigenous tribes from here that make Nilgiri so special. So this voting season, this election season, it's important to get you every voice. And that has been our endeavor in Times Now's election yatra as well, getting you every voice that matters. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. With that, we also get you a glimpse of a cultural performance, very unique to this community. That's what we show you next.